and welcome to everyone, and hopefully do the right things so that our community becomes a little more diverse. As far as the board of directors is concerned, we're doing the same thing with the board of directors. We recently had Sophie take on a new job, and she couldn't actually continue being on our board because one of her clients was one of our customers, and that creates a conflict of interest situation, so she had to quit. We're still looking for a good replacement director, but the edict and the issue is that the diversity of our board must remain the same or get better in doing so. So I care about these things, even though I have very little power to do much on this front, doing as much as I can, whenever I can. We're making incredible progress. We're just doing an incredible number of projects. We have a lot more volunteers. And there's a number of tasks that are just sort of, how long have we been kicking around genres? 15 years? Seem like 20, 25. I think we're getting a little closer on that. But other things that, fixing our hosting infrastructure, and Zaz, who still isn't here, is probably looking at graphs from the servers and so forth, has done an incredible amount of work to make that happen, to get us to that point. BitMap, obviously, a giant help in that one as well. It's really nice to be at where we've arrived, because now we can just fire up servers and have more capacity as we need it. So when somebody comes to me and says, "Hey Rob, we need a blah 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 for blah 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 blah," the answer is yes. It's just a matter of like, where do we actually put this? So the flexibility we've gained over the last year is incredible. Is really good. And also, just sort of highlight what the amount of work that we've done. We did have a bit of an outage a couple of weeks ago. We found a single point of failure. That's been fixed. But the really beautiful thing is the database server, which is core for absolutely everything. When it came back up, bam! Everything came back up with the exception of cover and archive, right? We'll fix that one. It's a pretty simple fix. But still, everything just came back. Everything was self-healing. I don't know how much that means to anyone other than me, but I find that to be incredible that we've actually gotten that far. So, round of applause for Zaz, who's not here, and I can't underscore how important these things are. And in the history of our organization, we've overcome things like NGS when we didn't do any releases for 2 years. It was an incredibly painful process for us to go through. And then in the last year, we didn't do as much other things because we had to get to a new host and so forth. And another thing weathered. It was a bumpy ride, but we arrived. So there's other things that we need to do to clean up. I'm 2 years behind on the actual reports for the foundation. And once the summit concludes and all the paperwork is done and all that crap, I'll get on that. But I'm hoping that by the end of the year, all of the foundation backlog of things that are to be done will actually be done. We can stand there proud and say like, hey, we got our shit covered, we're up to date. One of the things that Kizito and I have identified that is something that is sort of frustrating us is that the music industry still has this perception of us that just as late as last year, Vivo looked at our stuff and they said like, we're just gonna go with a professional solution, and then walked out. Right, like we have the best data out there. I think we have the best service out there, and there was still a big perception issue that we had to overcome. And the perception issue as far as branding, now we look professional. That's something we pulled off. That was an incredible amount of work as well, but it's turned out really well because look at all these, look at the carpets, look at the pillows, look at the t-shirts. Thank you for designing the t-shirts. So that was a really incredible way to actually move forward on this and make ourselves look. Yeah, it's the wrong way around. Yeah, you're supposed to hold it. Yeah. Oh, they're printed both sides.
Yeah.
Oh,
Both sides.
I just realized that. That's cool.
Both sides.
Nice. Anyways, so the plan for MetaBrainz is continue going, continue to earn more money. And next year, as the year gets started, we're going to do a publicity push. We're going to work with Rasami, one of our directors, to do a push to basically see if we can get into press and let the world know that, hey, look, we've become professional, right? Don't look under the hood. Don't look at us, right? But just like the organization has become professional, and hopefully then try and get to the point where people actually realize that we exist. And two, that we're actually doing incredible work with the few resources that we do have. So I'm incredibly proud of all of you guys for what we've accomplished in the last few months. It's been a really great summer of code here, and Google Coding is happening again. So for once in a really long time, I'm not super stressed out about the state of the organization and how enough resources to go around. So it's an incredible place to be, and I'm going to shut up now. Any questions about sort of where MetaBrainz is at, or what we should be doing next, or sort of general business things? Onward. So let's go through the state of other brains. If you're the leader of a brains project, please take a couple of minutes, maybe 3, max 5, to tell us about the state of your project, how things are going, and you know, if there's things that you need and so forth. And I see Alistair chomping at the bit, so you go.
Fine, I'll go first. Alphabetical by project or by project leader?
Alphabetic by the latter half of the name. We organized by brains.
By B.
Yeah.
Okay. Acoustic brains. So, yeah. So we're doing okay with acoustic brains. We're collecting a huge amount of data. We're up to 5 million submissions in the database, I think, running about 200 gigabytes at the moment. I think for now, the biggest thing is now to convince people what we have. I mean, in much the same way that Rob just said, you know, we need to show people that, look, we have good data. We have to do the same for acoustic brains, because basically people, as far as I can tell, not a huge number of people are using it. We do hear from time to time, one person says, oh, I've integrated it with our software, or oh yeah, we did a little bit of research with it here. But part of that is us. We have to push and make sure that we get data being dumped more regularly, which we're not doing at all at the moment. So that's a future thing. Well, this year hopefully. So get data out to people, show people what we can do with it. So you know, we have a lot of really basic data display, but it's really all terrible, and we should make it look really nice. We've done a couple of things with the data. Last year we presented at a conference where we took ground truth for genre from a bunch of different places, from Discogs and Last.fm and tags and music brands, and we kind of looked and trying to see how can we build a better genre detector. So with acoustic brains, at least we can we believe that we can take an unknown song and guess its genre. But the biggest problem with that has been data. So traditionally in academia, people are working with very small data sets, so it's like 1,000 songs or something, which is not big enough for the type of scale that we're working at. And so now we're working at the scale of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. And we recently released a data set. We ran this genre recognition contest, which I think many of you have been aware of. I've mentioned it a few times. We finally presented that in Dublin 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. The results were generally not great, but with a really good foundation. We think that certainly from all of the people who participated, we think we can take one thing that one person did and one thing that someone else did and one thing that someone else did and bring it together and get some really good genre recognition going. So we're kind of excited about that. The other big thing that I will mention is, since people really love deep learning now, a lot of people are asking us how can they do deep learning with acoustic brains data. Basically they can't. The data in acoustic brains is not detailed enough, but a bunch of PhD students at the university have been working out the best generic features that we can compute, that we can put in something like acoustic brains that would be widely usable for everyone. So the big issue there is everyone has their own sort of custom way. We say, I generate data this way, and someone else says, I generate data this way, and someone else says, I generate data this way. We can't do that with acoustic brains because we want this fixed feature extractor. But the idea is we work out some sort of generally good for everything, and perhaps not really good for a specific task. But we're working on that as well, and we're hoping to get a new version of Essentia out sometime this year. And with that new version of Essentia, we should be able to push a new version of the acoustic brains extractor.
Fabulous. Thank you for leading that project and wrangling everyone at the MTG, or everyone relevant at the MTG. All right, which project wants to go next?
I hear there's a project called MetaBrainz.
MetaBrainz, yeah. Sort of stands up at the core of things. Bitmap, do you want to talk about that, or should we pick on somebody else?
I didn't prepare much to say.
I didn't prepare anything.
Tell us, just wing it. Just tell us where things are, and are you happy or not?
I think the project is in a better state than ever.
Yes.
We spent a lot of last year working on new host of course, which took most of and like a lot of back-end things that came up. Things like the JSON dumps, which were for customers that need to get out. So we did lag a bit behind on working on the user interface and stuff, but me and Ivan are getting closer to pushing out changes to the template system that will help us improve the editor interface a lot more this year, and hopefully we can also make the data easier for customers to digest, similar to how we do with the JSON dumps. And I think the community is a lot more sane now.
I think we can let Freso give an update on the community.
I won't say anything else about that, but yeah, that's about it for me.
I've got a couple of further additions to that, and we're going to get into more detail, but as you all know, we've hired Param and Sambhav to join the team. And so, welcome once again, which is an incredible thing for us to hire two people at the same time. We've never done that before. Param is going to continue working on ListenBrainz, as we all know, but part of joining the team is that you're going to have to help out with other projects as well. So Param is going to be taking on the MetaBrainz website, which isn't a grand task in the grand scheme of things. Occasionally there's things that need to be done because payment providers and whatnot are changing things. But fundamentally, when we talk about WS3, there's going to be some features that come out of WS3 that he needs to look at. We'll get into that later. So that's how Param is fitting into that. And then we've got Sambhav, and Sambhav is, let's see, you're going to be doing Picard, you're going to be doing music recommendation engine, and he's also going to be in charge of the new web service. He's basically going to be in charge of the web service going forward. So the point,
Yes.
I'm trying to block that out. I'm getting that. But I'm really more specifically talking about it in the context of teamwork in this particular case, because GentleCat never really integrated in the MetaBrainz team the way I wanted him to integrate. So, and MetaBrainz has had not enough resources, in my opinion, for a long time. So what I want to do is make sure MetaBrainz, since MetaBrainz is what pays all the bills for everything else, we can't neglect it, right? So we have to put considerable energy into it. And since Sambhav works on Picard, I also want him to work on the web service because that allows him to see both sides of it. So WS3 work will be coming a lot, but for the last part of this year, he's going to be working on all the search stuff. So we've done some passing off on that, but there's a lot of elements, a lot of balls moving. Fortunately, we have Minio here, which helps out a lot. But I'm going to keep a closer eye on this one and try and learn along so that when he gets stuck, that there will be two of us who are stuck. And life is a lot easier when there's another person who's stuck with you. I want to keep this one moving. Ideally, if we can actually finish it by the end of the year and push it on to production, that would be ideal. MetaBrainz community, Freso?
Yeah. All right, first off, I want to say hi to the people watching out in the world. The stream is actually live right now. And I'm hoping they were able to hear Bitmap's update. It was a bit quiet and off to the side, but the people are telling me that the people who are talking from up here, they can hear fine. So yeah, Rob's and Alistair went through fine. It's kind of angled a bit, so we can see kind of from here this area, and the door is blocking a bit of the whiteboard, but yes, and we've already gotten some positive comments on the stream, so I'm really happy about that. Anyway, the community, I feel, is actually kind of well off right now. I'm really happy we got the. I'm really happy we got the editor reporting feature. That has actually come really handy. In I'm not sure if that was in the last year, if that was actually if that's a bit older, but it's not that old. And yeah, I think that's made it much easier to make sure that we can take things in the running instead of having until the shit has really hit the fan in a lot of cases. And it's also really brought to highlight how much spam we actually have, both in like the old school user profile, editor profiles. But those have kind of, with recent changes made by Ivan and Bitmap, those have kind of taken a hit now. They're not issues now, but instead we have another spam problem now, as I told on the ISC meeting on Monday, with people creating spam events instead. So I think, I'm not sure if I should come up now. We're going to talk more about that in a bit. So, do I have anything else to say about the community? The forum is working really great. I feel like we're having a lot of very positive discussion there, and I feel like it's generally working as it's supposed to work, and people are using its features mostly with flagging posts, and
you guys are awesome.
Yeah, I'm really happy that that's working out, because the consolidation of mailing lists, and it's been something that's been plaguing us for eons, and we're finally there. So thank you.
And it's really, I think it's really great that is the way it integrates with the MusicBrainz accounts as well. So we don't have another. So I'm really hoping we can get to work on seamlessly moving some of our other platforms towards having some kind of one login. I think that would really help. That's another thing that a common complaint on IC at least is when we ask people to make a ticket, then it's like, can I use my MusicBrainz plugin? No. So I have to make yet another plugin. Yeah. But I know that's also something we've been talking about for a while, and I feel like we're one step closer with the Jira upgrade in the, what was that, about a year ago?
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, no. But since we haven't really had a proper update in 2 years now, so I thought I'm just digging a bit into what's actually happened in the last long time now. Yeah, I'm really happy about our Google Code-in efforts as well. And I know there's a lot of people who are poking us right now and asking if we are applying for Google Code-in, and we definitely are applying for Google Code-in again this year. And I'm really happy about our Summer of Code efforts as well. We had a really great team this year who I feel like brought a lot to the community as well. And I generally feel that these Google programs are not just a great tool for MusicBrainz on a technological scale, but also on the community level. So yeah, I'm very much a fan of those. I can't think of anything else right now. So yeah.
Thank you.
You want me to say some stuff?
Yeah, I mean, some some MetaBrainz-y sort of businessy sort of stuff. It's business brains, customer brains, supporter brains.
Office brains.
Office brains.
Office brains. Okay, well.
Actually, it would be great if you could just introduce yourself and say who you are to the people watching who do not know what we look like.
Hi, I'm Quesito, and I do office brain stuff. So I've been with y'all for about 9 months now, and I think I've tried to get up to speed, being having the least amount of time with the MetaBrainz community. And basically, I'm doing a lot of supporter catalyst work and helping with our finances. And let's see, this year we, in the last 9 months, we ended public offering of the mobile program, mostly due to cost issues. It's not really beneficial for many people. And then alongside of that, I kind of created the developer program, which is basically 6 months with a bit of support that's really low level, but I mean, it's something to give back to the community while people are developing and having fun if they're doing developing a commercial entity. So that's good. As far as finances go, we're projected this year to get very close to half a mil.
No shit.
Yeah.
Wow. I was thinking we might cross 400,000, but actually getting it, wow. That's a big deal. Because last year we finished out with 323,000, which was a record year so far.
Yeah, we'll at least beat that by 100 grand. So I think what we're doing is working. And I try to just talk to our supporters and people that email us and see what they need and how we can mix together so they're helping our ecosystem and we're helping them in some way, and how we can merge that together. What else? And then I kind of untangled our invoicing system, so now we just invoice people 4 times a year, each quarter, so it's very simple. And if I could get that automated, that would also be cool, but then we'd have to rely on QuickBooks, and I don't know if I trust QuickBooks that much, so. We see, what else have we done?
There's also things, well, QNAP, but that's sort of a future task.
Well, there's a few investigations that are ongoing. Some of them have paused indefinitely, and some of them we'll keep trying for. But as far, it's a wobbly line of protecting. I don't know. That's another conversation. What else? I'm still learning about a bunch of stuff with Lujian's help. Hopefully I'll be doing a bit more data visualization, which I'm hoping to put into PR work and creating a little bit more buzz about our community and open up stuff, give kind of visualization to a database, which you can't really, it's not necessarily a product you can just take a picture of and be like, wow, that's a good looking book. No, you can't do that. So that's always on the back burner besides business stuff, so unfortunately it keeps getting delayed, but I'm slowly moving on that, and maybe Lujian can talk a little bit about some more database stuff today. Maybe, maybe not. What else? That's about it, I think.
Okay, book brains, critique brains, anybody who wants to go next?
Go.
Go.
Okay, so I'm Ben, I'm Lord Sputnik on RC, and I'm one of the 2 main project leads on BookBrainz. Leftmost over there is the other. I characterize BookBrainz as having slow but steady progress on some things that matter over the last year. So it's been a long time since the last summit, but highlights are we've had single sign-on now, so you can use your MusicBrainz profile into BookBrainz We've also completely redone the way that you can view entities in BookBrainz. So there's a new UI, which is really quite simple and quite nice. It uses white space a bit better than before. There's also a new entity editor coming probably next week. So that's quite exciting because it means that there's no more rubbish like tabs and dodgy, slow UI because of React. So we're using like Redux now, so it kind of speeds up a lot of the interaction with the UI. We had a really good Google Code last year. We had a guy called Arthur who did a lot of good work on getting rid of our old Jade templating system, moving stuff over to React. He also did a number of other miscellaneous stuff around the site. And also, thanks to all the other students who also contributed, although we didn't get as much from them, but it was still valuable contributions in a number of areas. And also last summer we had Max, or Core UK. He did a really good job on implementing an achievement system. Sadly, we didn't get anyone for Google Summer Code this year, just because we couldn't quite get the right quality of application we were looking for. But we're hoping next year we can get someone, because we've got a number of good projects we want people to do. Apart from that, we're going to continue doing what we can when we can. On BookBrainz side, because we're all volunteers, so it's a bit more difficult to make huge leaps of progress on some of the other projects, but we're getting there, I think. Right, that's it from me.
Who wants to go next? Should I give an update for CritiqueBrainz? I mean, yeah, or should I do it? Okay. So
You can both.
So CritiqueBrainz is we're still really figuring out what's next for CritiqueBrainz. So we're still trying to figure out what's next for CritiqueBrainz because, as you all know, John Cat left the company. Suyash is now, actually, can you stand up? And this is Suyash, everyone. He was also one of our successful Summer of Code students, done a bunch of work, and is for the meantime being sort of the lead of CritiqueBrainz. Within the next few weeks, months, I need to wrap my head around exactly what the roadmap is going to look like and figure out how to get some help for Suyash to not be alone on his own on that. But the Summer of Code project that was done that he did was actually having CritiqueBrainz now talk to the database directly on our production system. So we're making more consistent use of our database servers. That's in production, so that's fabulous. There was another project, another CritiqueBrainz project this summer. Anybody know much about what went down with that?
There is a rating system now in CritiqueBrainz. You can rate an entity instead of writing a review, and also you can rate as well as write a review. So we are having ratings as well as reviews.
But entities, so you mean
Place, all entities, place, release, groups, events.
all entities that you can write a review for,
Right.
you can also rate instead of writing reviews.
Yeah. So we can rate all the stuff rather than writing a review.
Has this? How is this writing review, like the rating system, connected to the MusicBrainz on-site rating system? Is it connected?
No.
Are we planning to?
topic.
Yes, that was there was a discussion about whether that should be done or how to do it, but I think the initial decision was get something working, and because integration with rating brings
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Needs some discussion to put it on the board or something. Thank you, Suyash. Do you want to talk about ListenBrainz or should I do it?
You should.
Okay. So ListenBrainz, there has been. Oh yeah.
Stand up.
Stand up.
Show the
pillow. This is Param. Param has been working tirelessly all summer long and even before the summer on this project. And I almost feel bad because there were so many times that just nicely kept beating on us. Like, okay, we need to do this. Now we need to do that. Now we need to do this. I mean, it just went on for weeks, months. So I'm somewhat sorry for that, except I'm not, because when we had this Yeah, the data integrity is like, we haven't had any bugs. And once the database server came back, I tried to look at it like, are things going again? And boom, it just came back, everything. It was incredible to see like a series of containers self-heal and just start working again. So thank you, that was really great work. We now have some approaching 900 users with approaching 50 million listens.
55.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's just, we're not doing anything, they're just turning up, right?
Yeah,
And
people are interested in using this.
absolutely. So people are like pushing us, like, hey, come on, when's the first data dump coming? When I'm still like, it's not statistically significant, right? We have a long way to
But
go.
it's all on BigQuery as well.
It's all on BigQuery, so we're straight.
Effectively, there is a data dump.
Yeah, so that's pretty much my answer, but we are, before the end of the year, we're going to do a data dump. We are streaming live to BigQuery. Last time I looked, it took maybe 3 seconds for listen when it arrives at our doorstep, that it arrives at BigQuery, which is incredible. So anybody can do a bunch of live queries on this stuff, and I believe we should be listed as one of the public organizations hosting public data sets at Google BigQuery, and the ListenBrainz data set is there for people to discover. It should be, I haven't actually looked at it yet, but that's also a big deal because we are, effectively wanting to showcase data sets that the Google BigQuery is demonstrating, and they've given us a fat little bonus or a fat account, a funded account for us to do our stuff with. Param's actual summer code project, which is, it's kind of starting on now, more or less.
It'll be finished by next summer.
No, it'll be finished before the end of the year, I'm positive. I mean, there's a couple PRs that I'm really slacking on, but the idea there is that to start using all of the data that's in BigQuery and start calculating the storage statistics about users and about all the data that we can calculate things with. So, for instance, one of the things that I'm going to be keen on are relationships between artists and relationships between tracks, as well as to figure out which artists and which tracks are popular. Because that's also really interesting for us to then build maybe a partial data set of MusicBrainz to figure out like, hey, can I just get a bunch of popular data? And in general, I think this is going to help Casito's job because people have been asking about popularity data, like how popular are these artists? ListenBrainz is going to allow us to basically calculate some of that data. Problem is we need to be statistically significant, so I'm guessing a billion listens.
So everyone submit your stuff.
Yep, and I mean this pretty much goes for all of our projects. Like jump in and help out. Along the same lines, later on I want to be talking about cross-pollinating the brains. We've not been doing a good job of that, mostly because most of the other brains projects are not quite of maturity yet. But we're quickly approaching there, and we need to start doing cross-pollination, so there'll be an update on that, talk about that and how to do that. So that's exciting. ListenBrainz, woo, I think we're in good shape. If you followed that Twitter discussion where somebody said, why didn't you just host a copy of Libre FM? And that we just sort of let that discussion die down. Because I don't really want to run somebody else's crappy disputed source code. We have our own infrastructure using modern technology, and I think what we've done so far that's running on one server is already giving some fabulous results. So, thank you. Who's left? MetaBrainz. There's no real updates for MetaBrainz. It just kind of keeps working, doing its thing, right? There isn't anything particular. What other projects do we have? Picard.
That's
Oh, Zaz, fabulous.
Just in time for the Picard update.
Zaz brains. Let's finish the brains and then we'll come to you for a hosting update as to where we are.
Zaz is not going to get the Picard one?
You do Picard, he does hosting. I don't want to put you on the spot.
We have a Picard.
Yeah, we have a Picard pillow.
Okay.
That's good. Where's Picard host?
Okay, hi, I'm Sambhav. I've been developing for Picard for about 10 months now. Yeah. So as for the progress, we have released one major version, 2 minor versions, and 1 alpha release with Picard 2.0. There have been a lot of changes in the code base. We have tag removals, high DPI support, Qt5 migration, Python 3 migration, migration to the JSON web service, and a new plugin system. So yeah, there was a lot of development on the Picard side. As for our current future, we are looking at a beta release of Picard in about November end. Yeah. So we'll probably be finishing up on the plugin, the new plugin system by then, and we also released Picard on pip. So now it's universally installable across all platforms if you have pip. Apart from that, we also improved our code coverage. So now we have tests running on all 3 major platforms: Windows, Mac, and Linux. Yeah.
Fabulous. All right, Zaz, tell us a little bit about hosting. Just like 2 or 3 minutes worth of stuff, please.
First, we are pretty happy of Edsner. It was a bit of a random choice at start about price, and we didn't know exactly what about the service and things like that. Edsner is great, it's not expensive, we have a lot of bandwidth, we have very good servers, and yeah, after almost 1 year now, we are very happy with Edsner, it works perfectly well. Most of our applications were moved to Docker. So now it's much easier to develop on it because each developer can work on its own stuff, and deployment is not as complicated as it was before. We still have a few things which are not bad way. For example, we use the way we are using Docker at the moment is a bit limited. We had to figure out how to make things work with Docker, and it was not as easy we could be. So the whole architecture didn't change much. We still have the gateways, we still have backends, and we want to move to something more scalable to be able to handle even more requests. What else? About our current traffic, it increased since we moved from DWNI. It increased a lot, in fact. We are handling about 300 requests per second of flagged requests. And we have something like 1,500 incoming requests each second. We still have a QNAP issue, which is basically a kind of denial of service they didn't really want to do. So it's something we have to solve in the future because it uses a lot of bandwidth, and that's not great. What else? Well, we have few machines at Google Cloud. Our idea for the future is to move even more to the cloud. We didn't do it yet, mostly because of the price. It's still too expensive compared to traditional hosting with hardware machine. But at Edsner we are renting servers, so we don't have hardware maintenance to do. So, yeah,
and I should say that our hosting bills at Edsner, at DWNI ran about $2,050 a month. And at Edsner we're currently spending about 1,600 euros, and at Google maybe another 300, 350. So we're still paying significantly less all told, all around than we were before at one hosting provider. We have gambit bandwidth, and in reality the money that we're spending on Google hosting, thank you Google, is actually not really coming out of our own pocket, because a while ago Google donated $10,000 with the promise that we would spend it on Google Cloud hosting, and I said, yeah, sure. So we have a long ways to go before those $10,000 are chewed up. So that, in effect, fact, it doesn't even really count towards our hosting costs. We have lots of servers. In fact, we have excess capacity where we could actually ditch a couple of servers, maybe. But I have a feeling every time I mention ditching a couple of servers, he starts twitching a bit. So maybe I'll just not do that. We're definitely getting rid of the old MetaBrainz server because it's not actually part of our infrastructure. They're at Hetzner, but they're sitting off on their own and underutilized, so that's going away. I think static about your work, and I was saying before you showed up that how after that one database failure, everything just magically popped back up. I've never seen anything like that in my life before. That's fabulous.
Yeah.
Thank you for all your work. So, I think we've covered all the brainses now, right? I mean, there's Office Brains, but the only thing that's going to happen on Office Brains is I'm going to take this lock. There's brains inside here, and then there's a tiny little cable that connects the actual mechanicals here. And I've built a man-in-the-middle board that allows me to put a logic analyzer on it. And then I'm going to open the door and see if we can understand what the signals are. And if it's not an encrypted traffic any sort of way, then I'm going to yank out that stupid brain and actually wire it up to the Raspberry Pi that's in there. And the door will be openable much in the same way as the door downstairs. Not that that really matters in the sense, but I'll leave it open.
Yeah,
We really need some.
bit of noise.
We're gonna need some air going through here, otherwise it's die. Let's see. A bit of
Do we
meta
want a style
stuff.
update as well?
Sorry?
Do we want a style update as well? No. Okay.
Oh, okay. We could easily. So I'm gonna call our first break in 45 minutes because that gives us 45 minutes before the supermarket closes. So, so when we go back to the supermarket, we pretty much should buy enough food for the entire day tomorrow. Hopefully it won't be necessary. Hopefully there'll be a restaurant open we can go to. But given that we don't really understand what's going to happen on Sunday, we should buy enough food.
We should ask the pizza place if they're planning on being open on Sunday.
Okay.
I think Sunday was supposed to be pizza.
Yeah. But
Delivery pizza day.
what we might just consider doing is actually buying a bunch of canned goods and whatnot. And you know, worst case, I can see we can drag them out of the microwave over here or so. But you know, hopefully then we can just leave the canned foods here if the pizza place is open, but we'll just have to see quite up right here. Okay, so moving on. We've done the state of the brains, and I want to give a couple of quick updates with regards to what we've already discussed yesterday. So just to sort of get those out of the way before we actually start talking about deciding what our agenda moving on should be. So did a couple of breakouts yesterday. One of them was the spam one. So we have now decided that we really need to actually level up on our spam finding techniques. This sucks, but it's just something we need to do. We need to protect the quality of our database. So first I was going to head out the being aware of all issues of spam. So he is now our spam sensei. And the very first thing that we're going to do is create a new account privilege on MusicBrainz that is going to be called a Spam Ninja, hence Spam Sensei. And Spam Ninja is going to have the power to immediately delete entities that are spam entities without having to gather votes and whatnot. So that's an incredibly powerful thing to do. We need to be careful who we give this to. So I'm certainly out. And one other thing that we're going to do is that anytime that we actually delete a piece of data out of the database because it's spam, we're going to take that piece of text of English and save it to a brand new database, which is going to obviously be called SpamBrainz. And then the idea of SpamBrainz is eventually, once we've collected enough data, Leo is going to feed that into a machine learning algorithm, and with a goal of figuring out if we can detect what is spam, what is not spam. That then will feed into a report system, and the report system is already being worked on to bring back reports to see what information is, might be dirty or what's recently changed and so forth, and be able to highlight in these reports that we think this might be spam, or this was recently changed by a recent editor, highlighting in general what has been edited so we can see more clearly what sorts of things need to be reviewed for spam. Spam is going to continue to be a problem, and our short-term solution is to have social approaches to it, but social things are, take a lot of human time, and we'd much rather be editing and improving the data rather than wasting time on spam. There isn't much we can do about that until we have something more automated in place with the machine learning stuff or the Bayesian filtering stuff to figure out what's spam and what's not spam. But I think the most important thing is that we have one person who's on top of this and keeps following it, because when I chased Zaz and said, okay, write a Python script to basically paw through our access logs, we found a bunch of shit, and we identified that QNAP was basically never asked us for how to do anything, and never were asked to work with us, and they're sending us now currently 1,200 illegitimate requests per second to go look shit up, because whatever somebody who has a QNAP NAS, and anytime somebody actually takes a piece of content in the MP3 and moves it to their NAS, they do a metadata lookup which hits MusicBrainz. Oftentimes it fails. Nobody knows that this is happening. QNAP knows that this is happening, and we're blocking it on the gateway level, which basically means that we were blocking. Zaz was blocking on the IP level, which basically meant if you had a NAS at home, the QNAP NAS, and you sent an MP3 to it, then our blocking system was like, fuck you, that's a wrong fucking IP. And then we would just block you. Then we'd get an email from people like, why did you guys block me? Right? So that's not a very effective means of doing it. It's causing a lot of drama and difficulty and so forth. But QNAP is basically proven to be a company who doesn't give a fuck about its products or its customers. They only care about making money, so dealing with them is just going to be difficult. I even contacted Amazon and said, hey, you guys are being hit by this as well, because they're hitting IMDb. And Amazon said, oh, that's interesting for one somewhere on the other side of the cake, which is nice. And they suggested that we actually report QNAP on the Amazon abuse, like this product was abusive to me. So to actually report them and say like, hey, this product is abusive, and then if we can actually show that it's abusive, there's a tiny remote chance that QNAP could get dropped from Amazon, which will be gigantically powerful because that's going to kick them in the balls. But I don't really think that's going to happen. I think QNAP is a very, very difficult case, but it's something that is just, they're aggressively wasting our resources with just negligence. So I hate those guys. Very much so.
Hence the websites.
Sorry?
Hence the next.
Yes, it's actually a very, very good way to get to the next topic, the WS3. Any questions on spam? Yeah, let's not talk about spam.
Can we record a video like?
Spam, and maybe flip off QNAP so we can send it to them. Okay, WS3. So if you thought that WS3 meant our new spiffy web service that is going to take on a new model, do all these things, this mythical unicorn of web service, yeah, that's not it. Okay. So WS3, so that's that mythical unicorn web service that's going to make everything better, is now WS4. And WS4 is not on the calendar. It's a huge job. What we need to do is create a new web service, Web Service 3. And it effectively is JSON only. It uses exactly the same format and the same backend code that we have running right now. Zambot is going to make sure that any JSON-related bugs that we have are going to get fixed. So the JSON web service is going to be our #1 most important web service moving forward. But Zaz is currently in charge of being the head of this particular project, and there's a tool called Kong, which is like another layer based on the tools that we're already using, which allows us to do intelligent rate limiting and API keys, and that needs to be tied to the MetaBrainz website to create API keys and revoke API keys and so forth. And John's going to be working on that. So the bottom line of all of this, and the math actually turns out rather quite nicely, is that once we actually push this web service live, people are going to be able to update their clients, and we're going to push out a beta release of Picard very, very soon after, or hopefully at the same time that we have a beta version of this available. And what that will do is it will allow people to get a higher rate limit. So their service, Picard, is going to run faster for them. So that's the carrot we're holding out in front of people. We're going to let that run for about 6 months. Well, once we get out of beta, we're going to let it run for 6 months. And then what we're going to do is we're actually going to start throttling the traffic on WS2, which means that we're going to lower the global rate limit. And that means that people are going to get more 503s off of the global web service, off the old web service. But we'll be standing here going like, okay, all you need to do is move your shit from XML to JSON, and or if you're already using the JSON stuff, all you need is an API key, which shouldn't be terribly much work. Move over, you get better rate limits, dynamic rate limits. And incredibly, people have told us that they'll be willing to pay €5 or $5 a month to go have better web service access, higher rate limits. So I could see us getting somebody like 5 requests a second if they're giving us $4 or $5 a month. But it turns out each one server that actually needs to do the hosting on the back end that will do all the heavy lifting only costs about €50 a month. So that's dirt cheap, dirt cheap. That means we need to have 10 paying customers to support one server, and then maybe like 12 paying customers who can also like squirrel away some money to pay for more database capacity. But right now we have ample database capacity. So that's a huge thing for us. That'll make a bunch of people really happy, but we just have to move people over to this new system. And this will basically also deal with the QNAP situation, because if QNAP comes and tries to apply for an API key, Kisito can proverbially kick in the balls all the way from here to Taiwan and say, oh, Q, this is going to cost you a lot of money. I'm going to just over time, we need to also think about shutting off WS1, which is now more than 5 years, 6 years in deprecation state. And then ideally get rid of WS2 before too long. It's not a giant change, but it protects our systems and it allows us to actually dynamically change the rate limit based on the load on the servers. So if the load of the servers that are smoking, we can just like throttle everything and push everyone down just a little bit and slow things down. But then if there's excess capacity in the system, we can just throttle it up and allow people to actually take more data coming through the system, which is an incredible thing that we've never been able to do, and that's going to result service better for all of our legitimate users. And it's going to result in absolutely terrible performance for all of our illegitimate users, which is exactly what we want to be. So with that, I don't really want to spend any more time talking about WS3. It's not, it's mostly underway. We figured out a bunch of things on that yesterday, so that topic's out of the way. Any questions on WS3?
I mean, this is sort of off topic a little bit, but I'm curious if there are analytics about WS1 usage.
Analytics in general is a problem. SAS has actually spent an incredible amount of time this year trying to get analytics to work. We find ourselves to be in this spot where the analytics systems are like, oh yeah, no, it will work for you, no problem, but we actually have so much traffic that it doesn't actually work very well. So there's all the solutions that are out there either mean we need to spend like several €100 a month to go host servers to do this ourselves, or spend several hundred euros a month to have somebody else do it, but our privacy policy doesn't allow for that. So our visibility on this is terrible, and we don't have any good answers for this. So the immediate need that we have for analyzing data is we have to have a very concrete question. And that concrete question needs to then be realized in an actual piece of code in Python that basically applies regex as it scans over files. It's terrible, but it's the best we got. Zaz has put an incredible amount of time into that, all we got. But yeah, we need to just probably put up a blog post, say, hey, WS1's got another 6 months that it goes, right? 6 years is entirely too long. And quite frankly, at this point, I don't care anymore. Right? It's like there's no reason that if somebody comes to us and complains about wait, WS1 is going away after 5 years, like just go away. So
is the I guess this will come up in further discussion and further planning. But you mentioned JSON for WS3. Is that planned to be JSON only,
yes,
or JSON first?
XML is dead for us, right? And nobody wants to use XML anymore. Right, everyone's standardized in JSON, so let's just do that. Let's just move forward with that.
So I know we found a bunch of, let's say, inconsistencies in the JSON and WS2, but we're planning on being format compatible in WS3.
So if there's
I mean, just in terms of like hyphens and underscores and stuff.
if there's any bugs, any inconsistencies, open a ticket, assign it to someone.
That is to say that WS2 JSON is still in beta, so we can change it if we really want to, or
yeah, I mean, I think we can effectively. We ought to have a closer look at so if you have any known bugs that are not in Jira yet, please get them into Jira.
I suspect they all are, or at least we know.
They are mostly are. The only inconsistencies are the outputs of the two web service. XML has a different output in some cases than the JSON web service.
In terms of the names of the keys,
or in terms of the
data?
actual data that's present. So there are some relations that are present in the XML that are not present in the JSON. So, but they're actually not supposed to be present in XML as far as I remember. Like I made a ticket for that. I have no idea.
So it's actually a bug in XML. Okay. So the thing to do there is to just figure out like make a milestone or a release version in Jira for that, so we can see what's going on and move towards finalizing all those particular bugs, and then we'll mark the beta web service as no longer the JSON web service is no longer in beta and move forward from that. Any other questions on WS3?
Just a comment. I didn't catch if you said that it was deprecated for 6 years, but that's what it's 6 years ago that it was VS1 was deprecated in the wiki. So
yeah. I wanted to give an update on something else, something that fit perfectly right here. What was that? Right. I mumbled. It's like, oh, that would be a perfect thing to get in there. Okay.
I would like to just mention something real quick, if we're done with the WS3.
Yeah. If anybody else have updates for things that that could have been on Summit topics but were sort of settled yesterday, and hey, we've talked about this. We're done.
We wanted to talk about pollinating rooms.
Oh yeah. That's okay. Go for it.
All right. This is not really a long thing. It's just the Google coding application is starting in a week or two or something, it's really just about now, and we have a lot of the heads of various projects right now. So just want to please try and think of possible Google coding tasks as you're going through your through the ticket trackers and stuff. Just try to keep them in mind and maybe have a document or something where you note them down. And I think Caroline DCILU, I think she has done some video pages for this code, and so once the summit is kind of wrapped up, I plan on going more into trying to get us whip us into GCI shape, but it would be better to start thinking now than a week from now. So yeah, that was pretty much that. That also goes for all of you out there.
All right. So something that I've been talking about quite a lot and brought it up even Summit 2 years ago, never made any progress on it, was cross-pollinating between the brains. And but this is part of most of the brains projects are not of age yet. They're not really either statistically significant or the data quality isn't good enough just yet. But we're now getting to this point where the data is good enough. And let's pick a couple of examples. So for instance, Acoustic Brains has BPM. Right? And BPM is a really valuable thing that people have been clamoring for. We've got more than 3 million, probably more than 5 million data points and whatnot, and Acoustic Brains that are available in Acoustic Brains, but not really surfaced in Music Brains. The same thing's true for Listen Brains. We'll be coming up with some data here pretty quickly. You know, like how people are clutching their pillows at their projects. That's really cute. The thing that's happening there is that so like trying to get this cross-pollination to work I just haven't known how to do it, and then I sat down yesterday with these two and I said, like, we need a system, like every project needs to have some sort of data store or an API where they can highlight the mapping of the useful data. So, meaning that in Acoustic Brains, what I'd like to see Acoustic Brains do is create some sort of store, maybe a Redis store, could be an API, there's a lot of hand waving, right? But the general model is that if a Brainz now creates data that can be useful to MusicBrainz, they should, or actually any other Brainz project, they should create these mappings. So in this particular case, in AcousticBrainz, it could be recordings to BPM mappings. In ListenBrainz, it could be artist to popularity mapping. In CritiqueBrainz, it could be reviews to artists or releases and so forth. And these systems should go into production and be made available on our infrastructure internally. And then once the Brainz project has done this, they can open up a ticket to the MusicBrainz project and say, okay, we have this data, we'd like to see it integrated in MusicBrainz proper. At which point then the MusicBrainz team has to look at it and hopefully with Xavi's help figure out the correct way of doing the UI for this to then highlight that we have this data. So if there's someone who's looking at a particular track, we can say, yeah, we think that is 275 BPM, happy hardcore, super happy hardcore. And then from there, just highlight the piece of data. And the most important thing is we need to say where it came from. And then with a link for or if the data isn't there, which is probably more important, more compelling, if the data isn't there, then to simply say, hey, this data is missing. Do you have this track? Please go to AcousticBrainz, run your stuff over on your music collection through AcousticBrainz, so this data will then appear in the next few days on this site right here, right? So the idea that I'm envisioning with this cross-pollination project, and I'll have to think about what standards are and how to best do this and so forth, but in broad strokes, the idea is that data will flow from our ancillary Brainz projects to MusicBrainz or other Brainzes that want to use this data. In return, awareness of this other Brainz project and users have to flow back. So, meaning that BPM data flows from AcousticBrainz to MusicBrainz, and from MusicBrainz, users and awareness comes back to AcousticBrainz. And that's how we can feed these internal feedback loops to highlight the fact that we have more Brainz projects that all need more attention. So it's hand-waving, but at least I've figured out what the next step should be. And then, maybe in the early next year, we can actually start thinking about some of the technical things as we get things like WS3 out of the way and spam under control. Any questions on this vague hand-waving?
I asked her a couple of questions last night, but I think you mentioned most of them here.
Okay.
Biggest that it's an internal.
Yes.
The idea is it's an internal thing, not
it is an internal thing, but at the same time,
for now, perhaps.
For now, I think the interesting thing about this is that when we actually take this internal data and highlight it towards MusicBrainz, that's actually an expression that we consider this data to be valuable and a subset of other things that this project is producing. So I think it might be worthwhile as part of cross-pollination Brainz to actually produce data dumps, so that AcousticBrainz produces a BPM data dump, and ListenBrainz produces a artist popularity dump and a recording mapping or something like that. I think then people will be much more inclined to, especially if there's a JSON file that has a simple mapping and download it and start using it, that's incredibly powerful. So that makes our data more available, more useful to people, and again, it highlights that these Brainz projects are doing interesting things and continues to further bring people in through the Brainz or through MusicBrainz, and in general, more flow of awareness of users is really what I'm looking for. And now is the time for us to jump into that and get it done. Righto! Making good progress on this stuff. So, do people need a break, or do we want to continue on and start jumping into hearing what the survey results gave us?
Do we have a projector for the survey stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do that.
So maybe a 5-minute break while we set up the projector and people can just get up and stretch their legs, and I can get some power in my laptop. And
so we have, I like that idea, but we have an hour and 7 minutes before the supermarket closes.
Should we just go to the supermarket now?
Yeah.
Let's do the supermarket, and then when we come back from the supermarket, that should be enough of a break. Maybe we'll probably shove some food in our face, and once things calm down again, we'll reconvene, set up the